Hello and welcome to another edition of Localized Miami, where we meet Miami's local leaders and find out what they're doing to make this community special. Today we have an old colleague of mine and a really important Miami-Dade County employee, Pete Gomez, Director of Emergency Management. Hey, Pete, how are you?
Robert, great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Good to see you. It's fantastic to have you on and to know that you're the first time here at Community News.
Yeah, it is quite an operation you got here. I see it. I read parts of the paper when it comes across my desk, and it's pretty cool being here.
Yeah, well, it's Michael Miller and Grant Miller here at Community News, and they do a great job and let us come here and interview people like you. So thank you, Pete. I saw, you know what, I realized, so we worked together, just for a little background, we worked together, I was at the city of Miami from 2003 to 2009, right? So we worked together a little bit on different projects there. But I didn't realize that, I thought you were a lot younger because I found out you became a police officer before you became a firefighter in 1983.
That is correct.
How old were you?
I was 19 when I, when I joined the police. I was so young, I couldn't buy my own weapon. My dad had to buy my weapon for me.
Really? But you could shoot it.
I could shoot it. I could kill somebody, but I couldn't buy my own weapon at the time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But you were there for 2 years, Hialeah, right?
Year and a half, a little more.
Hialeah?
Yeah, Hialeah.
What made you change to fire? Because that's a really big change, I think.
Well, when I got into police work, it wasn't my end goal, right? It was like, well, I had taken the fire department test. They put a hiring freeze. I was working at a park in Hialeah where they gave the test, and they talked me into taking the test. Back then, I took the test in like March, and in June, I was in the police academy. And the next thing you knew, I was on the floor, on the streets by myself. It was really a fast process.
And that was Hialeah, right?
It was Hialeah.
So it's actually probably around the same time that Miami was having missing a lot of cops, so everybody's trying to get people in really quick, right?
Everybody was. So, they were hiring us and putting us out pretty much quickly. Then I was out by myself out on the road off FTO assignment for a couple of months, working midnight shift.
Field training officer.
Field training officer.
For the people that...
Correct.
Yeah.
And I went to a burglary in progress call, and the bad guy starts, it was my call, but I was the last guy on the scene because I was far away in my district. So by the time I got there, all these other units had gotten there. And next thing you know, my sergeant's knocking on the door. I'm standing off to the side in an apartment building in the hallway. And a guy starts firing through the door, and the first round got me in the nose.
You're kidding?
No.
Wow.
And that was April 27th, 1984, around 3 in the morning. The night before, April 26th, at 11 o'clock at night, City of Miami lifted the hiring freeze. And they were calling me at the hospital to find out if I could start the academy in 2 weeks.
Academy for fire? For
fire. Right.
So what happened to how did it hit you and where did it go?
It went straight in. So I still have the bullet in the back of my neck. But
that's crazy.
I don't have any damage left, any repercussions from it.
A small 38, I assume, or
it was a 38, about the size of my thumb. Yeah. So when I get x-rays, you see the bullet, you see some fragments still, but I really haven't had any repercussions.
That is crazy. And you were 21 years old, right?
I was like 21 years old when I got shot, yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, yeah.
How long were you in the hospital and such? Was it a big recovery?
Not long. I got shot. It was like a Tuesday morning, and I got out on a Friday, and I drove. So they called me in the hospital to start the fire academy, and the captain got on the phone. He says, "Hey, kid, old school fireman. Kid, as soon as you get out of the fire college, you come see me." I said, "Yes, sir." I couldn't hardly talk because my jaw had locked. So I get out of the hospital, still had a hole in my nose, and I drove straight to the fire college, talked to the training officer. He goes, "You can't, you're not going to be able to get into this class, but we're going to make sure you get into the next class."
Fantastic.
And, he was a man of his word, got me in the next class, and I lost, one class of seniority, which is no big deal.
Okay.
But it was listen, I loved being a police officer. The time that I was also a SWAT medic with the city. So I did 14 years of being a SWAT medic. I still dabbled in police work.
Okay. You were a SWAT medic too? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, for 14 years.
It was like in the 90s, I assume, right?
Well, I got in the fire department in 85. You have to do like 3 or 4 years before you can become a medic. So yeah, around late 80, early 90s, I was a SWAT medic for 14 years. So I lived through a lot of the, civil unrest that we've had in the city through that whole period.
You weren't 80. Well, no, not 84, because there was a riot in 84, but you weren't in Hialeah at the time.
I was still in Hialeah, correct?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But I do remember my first memory, and I have a lot of questions, but I do want to, since we worked together for a while, my first memory of you was, that I can think of, is Arbor Day, January 2007. We had a big planting in front of Miami High. Remember that? We had a huge Arbor Day planting.
It's coming back.
We became Tree City USA.
Yes.
The president of Arbor Day came down. We had a big speech and whatever. And you were the incident command person, for, safety. Because we had a very professional, I think we had 150 volunteers.
Yes.
Right? And what I remember is you set up your van there across from Miami High. You set up your little SUV there next to the gas station. You set up your stuff in the shade, and then you pulled out a folding chair and you sat down. I was like,
I don't doubt it.
I was like, oh, I see. But now I think about it, it makes sense. He's the safety guy.
Right.
He can't be planting trees. He has to be ready.
Safety guy has to be doing nothing but looking for violations, safety issues.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Especially, in our world, our people have training, right? When you're dealing with the civilian world, we don't know what kind of training they have. So you have to be making sure that you're looking out for, anything that could harm them.
Yeah. Well, one of the best things they ever did for us lay people in the city, I think it was a federal thing, is that incident command training, the ICS training. I loved it.
Yeah.
As a person that wasn't in the fire department, it helped me in my business for span of control and trying to figure that out. It really makes a lot of sense.
It's a great concept. It was really created after 9/11, so that the federal government realized that there was a lack of a unified, coordinated effort nationwide on how we deal with disasters, and that's where incident command came from.
Right, and actually,
the California wildfires. They're the ones that instituted a lot of that.
Well,
but the federal government made it mandatory.
Well, speaking after 9/11, another thing that came was WASI, and I think you were the WASI Urban Area Security Initiative. You were the WASI coordinator for a while. Can you explain? Can you explain what WASI is?
It's one of the Homeland Security grant programs. It's called the Urban Area Security Initiative, and when it first came out, it was to address the threats, risk, vulnerabilities of the top 34 cities in the United States for terrorism strikes. So Miami was at number 13. We were the 13th highest risk city and area in the whole United States. So the federal government created a funding source so that we can train, equip, we can plan for terrorism. And we've had it since 2003 is when it first came out, and it's still around. It's a great program. We've been able to provide a lot of training, a lot of equipment to our first responders, but not only first responders, our public health, hospitals, different organizations throughout, even the nonprofits. We've been able to support.
What kind of support can you give to the nonprofits?
A lot of incident command training.
Okay.
We get out there, but we can also help them harden facilities if they are threatened by a terrorism group. For example, there's a UWASI terrorism nonprofit grant, which is an offshoot of UWASI, and we get a lot of like Jewish organizations, Muslims organizations, they apply, and we're able to give them some dollars so they can harden their facilities,
right,
and train their citizenry to prepare and respond to any kind of event.
Oh.
So if we can harden a facility, we can mitigate the impact. We will do that as much as we can.
And WASI, I know when it came out, there was a lot of money thrown at it. Where is it now? Is it yearly?
It's fluctuated, right? When it first came out, we used to get about $19 million. That was split amongst a few cities. It was the core city and the core county were the two major recipients. But Hialeah got some, Coral Gables got some, Key Biscayne got some, the Keys got some. So there was money split for terrorism prevention, protection, response, and recovery. That's the way the grant is written. It's still around. We took I call it a pay cut, but a reduction in the federal funding in the 08, 09 years. And then, an event will happen somewhere in the world. We got more funding. And I think right now we're floating around 14 million a year. We're still out there. As a matter of fact, just yesterday we had our funding fund. So we were able to, provide a lot of funding for, like, the sheriff's office needed some equipment to be able to protect the community. The fire department needed some equipment and training.
You're in the working group?
I'm still in the work group, although yesterday I couldn't attend that meeting because I was attending another meeting with Sheriff Rosie. They always do a presentation from the Jewish high holidays that are coming, and Rabbi Mark Rosenberg invites a lot of and Sheriff Rosie invites a lot of the first responders, predominantly law enforcement, but emergency management and the fire department also participate. But yesterday, Sheriff Rosie invited a lot of the elected officials from the state. So we had the director of FHP here. We had the director, Mark Glass, of Florida Department of Law Enforcement. We had the CFO, Blaise Ngoglia, was here, also the fire marshal. Trying to remember. Two of our local commissioners, Commissioners Gonzalez and Steinberg, also participated. So it's a great meeting that is organized by Sheriff Rosie and Rabbi Mark Rosenberg. And it really, I come out of there with a whole total new perspective on life almost, because when you listen to Rabbi Rosenberg explain perspectives from the Jewish perspective, it's things that, those of us that are not living in that world don't think about,
Like
and
what?
Like your kids being able to go to school and not have to worry
something's going to happen.
About an active shooter coming into your school, right? And you can go to synagogue and not have to worry about terrorists. So it's really enlightening when you listen to, but also amazing the support and the commitment from local law enforcement, especially Sheriff Rosie and the entire MDSO team. But also, local Miami police is involved, North Miami Beach, North Miami, all of the local agencies. We all have synagogues in our communities. So collectively, we got to make sure that we're protecting not only synagogues, but, Christian, Catholic organizations, Muslims. And that's a big point that Rabbi Rosenberg and Sheriff Rosie make on yesterday. So it was an awesome meeting, to tell you the truth.
And so moving forward, so you were at the city until 2022 or City of Miami?
20. Just as COVID hit, I saw the writing. I actually didn't.
You were doing emergency management, right?
I was the assistant chief in charge of emergency management. I at the time, I had the urban search and rescue team, and then it got moved to another division for a while. But yes, I was the emergency manager for the city.
And so tell us about your role now. You're the emergency management director for this for Miami-Dade County.
For Miami-Dade County.
And so what exactly is that? I know it's preparation, it's response, it's a lot of things. So it's a big job.
It's preparedness. So we do prevention, protection, response, recovery, and mitigation, and also resiliency, right? So we are trying to get the community prepared for any disaster that comes. We are really responsible for 41 disasters in Miami-Dade County. So people think of emergency management just hurricanes. It's not just hurricanes, right? It's any kind of storm. It's flooding. It's active shooters. It's bombs. It's IEDs. It's a nuclear power plant, a nuclear explosion, a radiological event. So we have 41 risks and threats that we prepare for. And we try to get the community to understand all that. And we reach out to the community in many different ways. We have meetings. We go out to the community. We coordinate with actually our elected officials where they have events. They bring us and we speak about all the preparedness efforts that we do. And obviously hurricane is, is our big thing.
But you said as you said correctly, there's a lot of disasters out there. People think hurricanes are a big one, but there's a lot of things that you've been in public safety for 40 years. I'm sure you've seen a lot.
43rd year.
43rd? Wow. Yeah. So what is what disaster that you've been through like really keeps you up at night? Is really was something that's like, wow, that was different than all the others. Is there anything that sticks out for you?
Well, I went to the World Trade Center when the World Trade Center collapsed. So I was part of the urban search and rescue team.
I was going to ask
when we responded to the World Trade Center. So when you think in terms of that, right, that terrorist threat from, I call those planes, those are bombs, right?
Yeah,
that went off. And, there's still groups out there that hate us for whatever ideological reason they want to have, whether it's extreme far left, extreme far right. There's people that want to take us out. And, Commissioner Mark Glass yesterday from FDLE, and we always say that, was mentioning he keeps up, terrorism keeps him up at night, right? The terrorist threat, because he's in charge of domestic security for the entire state of Florida, right? We have a footprint in there and we participate a lot in it. And those terrorism threats, I wouldn't say keep me up at night because I've been doing it for so long, but I worry about them a lot, right? Because you're not just talking about, an improvised explosive attack, right? Device. You're not just talking about an active shooter. You're talking about biological agents. You're talking about chemical agents, radiological agents. And those are all these things that we prepare. So when you ask me what keeps you up at night, all those things keep me up at night. And now in today's world, this geopolitical climate that we're living in really keeps me up at night because, people think that, Hamas is over there next to Israel attacking Israel. Hamas could have cells somewhere, in the United States or, close to us and could attack the United States. So, guess what? Inside the borders of the United States, we're the ones that are responsible, right? People don't realize that. Military takes everything from the border out. Department of Homeland Security, those of us in the local level, got it from the borders in.
Right. And so tell me, you went with a group, the Urban Search and Rescue, USAR, right? You call it?
USAR. Florida Task Force Team 2 at the time.
So you went with a group, and what was your role there?
I was a public information officer for the team at the time. Although I was a hazardous materials manager for that particular deployment, I went as a PIO.
And what was the deployment? What was your mission there?
My mission?
No, the group's mission.
Oh, we had to search Ground Zero.
You had dogs?
Yeah, we had dogs. We have special listening equipment, video equipment. And our team happened to find 6 bodies. They weren't alive. And, we pulled them out. We've been back to, the pool, the swimming pool there. Yeah. And we know exactly where the names are. Oh, wow. We found it. One of our members, Julie Padelford, who was a canine handler at the time, her dog hit on one of them. She showed us exactly where all the names were. So, that's... I call it the Super Bowl of this world because there isn't a bigger disaster in my lifetime than that, right? I wasn't alive for Pearl Harbor, but I equate this to a Pearl Harbor type of attack.
Well, in terms of disasters for us, obviously, I'll get back to hurricanes because hurricanes has been very important in our area. So I think it's been 30 years, let's say, since Hurricane Andrew.
Andrew was the big.
So, question: are we more prepared now than Andrew? And
absolutely. Yeah. Not only locally. Again, you mentioned NIMS, the command structure, the equipment that we have. The urban search and rescue teams are, head and shoulders above what was way back then. And not only that, the state of Florida, the support that will come down prior to an event happening, it's a totally different world. And remember, Andrew caused a lot of changes in the code. In the South Florida Building Code. And the South Florida Building Code became the State of Florida Building Code, which is the strictest building code in the entire country. So
yeah, but wait, I want to ask you about that because it is, but the wind speed, like if you go up, like say to Tampa, they're still building concrete block first floor
and then
wood sticks, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So it did, but I think the next step, and I think we'll see it maybe in our lifetime when another big storm unfortunately hits that area, and we saw it in the Panhandle where the ones that weren't hardened, everything got knocked down.
There is a lot of truth to what you say, but I'll preface it with this: right before Hurricane Andrew hit, or during all that time, I was a fireman and I worked for another fireman who was a general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And he built houses in the Redlands and in Homestead.
Okay.
Not one of his houses came down.
Really?
Yeah. It's because of the construction. He went a little above and beyond. You know, he put an extra nail here, an extra nail there. His roofs, you know, that was one of the big changes to the code. Yeah. All those roofs stayed. One of the big changes to the code was how many nails you had to put in, you know, in every roof.
And
right?
the straps.
And the straps.
Right.
And you also had to put the straps. Well, I worked for this guy, Henry, and that guy was, you know, he was just a good construction guy, right? None of his buildings. So I say that to say sometimes if you cut corners, no matter what material you're going to use, it's going to affect you. But you're absolutely right. Concrete construction with CBS, you know, with poured concrete and all the metal straps and everything, without a doubt, is good.
Yeah, let me tell you, I tell people all the time, it's like, you know, they rag on the what they call the white boxes in the Grove.
Yeah.
But I tell everybody, listen, especially the ones that have a kind of a like a little patio on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the best places to be because it's a concrete bunker in there.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Robert,
that thing's gotten better.
I'll tell you. So as being part of the Urban Center Rescue Team, we went to Katrina, Mississippi. You know, and then we ended up in Louisiana too. But in Katrina, Mississippi, we went to Gulfport. That was our first assignment. Hey, get going. You're going to Gulfport. When we got to Gulfport, that entire town was washed in because, again, wood frame construction.
Right.
There was only like 3 or 4 buildings that survived, and they were all CBS construction.
And they were washed because they were on concrete blocks, right? So the buildings actually even moved too, right? Did they move
Not
or
those.
no?
Those didn't move.
Oh, okay.
Now remember, in that hurricane, there was storm surge of like 14 feet.
Yeah.
And we could see it, you know, in Bay St. Louis, which is a town very similar to Key West construction, right? Mm-hmm. You have them on stilts and then you have 2 or 3 stories above that. We could see the water line up on the 3rd floor. That's how high the water came up in those areas.
Crazy.
That's what we tell people, you know, during hurricanes, you know, what causes the most damage? It's not the wind, it's the water, right? Mm. That's what worries me. When we issue an evacuation order to people, listen, get out of Dodge. You don't have to leave the state of Florida. Just go to a safe location, right? But get away from that storm surge because that's what really kills a lot of people.
Now, that's a great point. That's a great segue because I wanted to ask, there's a storm out there now, Dolly, right? I don't know what the trajectory is. I haven't really seen the models. It's pretty far out, right?
Yeah.
So what happens now in, let's say, the EOC in your department, and how do you prepare as that storm gets closer? And really what people, I've been in the EOC before with City of Miami, but people don't really understand like who's actually in the EOC and how do you prepare for a storm like that?
Right. So ironic, it's called Dolly after Dolly Parton passed away,
and it was already
a few days ago. So we start monitoring those hurricanes as soon as they start developing off the coast of Africa. We're already monitoring it, right? And then we have a model that shows us, okay, when it gets to this area, right, then we got to take these steps, right? Especially, we'll be monitoring the wind field. How big is it? What's the strength of the storm and the projected strength that's going to come hit us, and what direction is it come? When the models start to align, that we're pretty certain we're going to get hit, then we start making the decision, okay, when do we start evacuating and where do we need to evacuate, right? So the southern part of the county is very vulnerable because it slopes up real slowly like this, and it's very conducive to high storm surge, kind of like the west coast of Florida. That's why in the west coast of Florida, you see really large storm surges.
I was just there. I saw it.
But on the East Coast, you don't see them as much because on the East Coast, the plates drop really quick, and it goes into real deep water kind of fast. So you don't see as much. We could get 6 to 7 feet storm surge off Miami Beach, North Miami Beach, all those areas. But the southern part of the county, south of Government Cut, that's the part that, you know, we have our storm surge zone A, where we start evacuating those people. Now, we got to determine, okay, how long does it take? It takes about 23 hours to get all those people out of zone A. And then based on the strength of the storm, we also determine what other zones need to go, because the storm surge zones are based on the intensity of the storm. Zone A is a Category 1 storm.
Okay.
We got to start moving those people out. And let me say this. We will issue an evacuation order even during tropical storms because we got to get vulnerable populations. And vulnerable populations could be the homeless, people in mobile parks, right? We got to make sure that they come out because a mobile home park in 30 to 40 mile an hour winds is a very vulnerable structure.
Of course.
Right? So we got to evacuate those people. So we'll start evacuating people early on, especially in those vulnerable areas, and then determine what zones need to be evacuated based on the intensity of the storm.
And so when is it all hands on deck?
Oh,
How close is that storm? If it gets how close?
Well, first of all, we're always all hands on deck.
I know you're monitoring all the time.
All the time, right? So our entire office is always monitoring. We will start issuing messaging to the entire county workforce to include the new constitutional officers, so everybody knows what's going on. And then we put in there prognostications, we put threats, and we deal real close. We're tied at the hip with the National Weather Service. So the National Weather Service will kind of tell us, hey, this is when you got to start doing this, this, and that. And so we keep everybody advised. Once it's about 5 or 6 days away, the spidey senses go up and we tell everybody, hey, it's time to start thinking about taking care of your people, taking care of your families, because you're going to have to come in. So the people that come into the EOC depend, again, the level of the storm that's coming. We will go to a level 2 or a level 1. Level 1 is full, everybody, all hands on deck at the EOC. And that'll be all of our emergency support functions, right? Critical emergency support functions. So that'll be people from the hospital, the health department, the military, police agencies, all the 7 municipalities that are not satellites. Our satellite cities will be there, and then we'll have Department of Public Works, the Sheriff's Office, the Fire Department. So you see all those critical agencies come to the EOC, all emergency support functions.
Wow.
And then it's like an orchestrated movement of activity in there. And the reason why we operate is because we have the subject matter experts that are right there. So if I got something that has to deal with a bridge, collapsing, or a bridge being stuck, I got the experts here. I got the Coast Guard. I tell the Coast Guard, hey, I got this problem. They resolve it right away. Yeah. Or if I got people looting a store, I got the Sheriff's Office right there. I say, hey, we got looting going on this location. I need you to take care of things like that.
People don't understand the commitment to be somebody, a first responder, but also a critical personnel like that. I was fortunate in Miami. I was Grant, so I didn't have to stay at the EOC, but you guys lived there for several days, right?
Yeah. We go to Alpha Bravo shift, which is 12 hours on, 12 hours off, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And, our personnel are committed to it. All the first responders are committed to it. And believe it or not, they love it.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes, you have prolonged activations, and that's where me, as the leader of the organization, I got to make sure I give my people relief. Yeah. And we will reach out to the state of Florida Division of Emergency Management, and they will provide assistance either in the form of manpower, contractual assistance, whatever it is we need.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, because I little experience with this. I know they have an EOC, but they also activate at the same time when there's a major thing.
Oh, they activate,
and they work with all the counties
way earlier.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they're. And here's the other thing: they're active. Like, people don't realize right now, there's over 100 wildfires as we speak going on in the state of Florida.
That's crazy.
Florida Division of Emergency Management, their EOC is operational right now. They've been operational for 4 years and haven't had a break. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So when you think in those terms, it's crazy. But when you think in the terms of how well prepared Florida is, you think, thank God we live in this state.
All right, so we're almost out of time. I want to give you the last word, but I do want to ask you a question. And I'll put you a little bit on the hot seat, okay?
Oh, boy.
All right. The state spent $1 million for Alligator Alcatraz from emergency management that could have gone for preventing disaster preparedness. Can you mention any of that? I know I'd put you on the hot seat. That's $1 million of preparation
Robert,
that we didn't have.
First of all, if it was only $1 million,
I mean, I'm sorry, billion. Sorry, billion. I meant a billion. Right, I said it wrong. Excuse me. We'll cut that in editing.
Those are decisions that were made way above my pay scale.
I know.
And way above our positions.
See, that's awesome. That's awesome. I hadn't heard that since the city. That's above my pay grade. I love that. That's a great answer. But I had to put you there. Hey, last thoughts. Anything? So we've got Dolly on the horizon. Anytime people should start worrying, or what do you want the general public to know about your job and your department?
Number one is the commitment that we make as a county. It's not just, Pete Gomez and emergency management. It's the entire Miami-Dade County workforce is committed to providing assistance because we do rely on them, right? Transportation and Public Works is one of my big partners. The Sheriff's Office.
Stacy Miller, great director, by the way.
Great director, by the way. The Sheriff's Office is one of our big partners. Chief Dadala and the Fire Department, great partners. But it's not just Miami-Dade County. We got 34 cities that we report to, right? Yeah. The mayor loves to say she's the mayor of, the entire county. And she looks at us as, hey, you're the emergency management agency for the entire county. And we are. Although some, cities have their own EOC, we support every single one of them. And what I want the community to know is that we are ready, the county will be ready, and we will also get support if needed from the state of Florida or the federal government if it comes to that. But be assured that when an event is coming, whatever, listen, we just got done with FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
We're preparing for G20.
Yeah.
Right? That was 1.5 years of preparedness.
That's true.
And it went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did. It was amazing.
That is.
You're right.
Kudos to the men and women that prepared from every agency, and those agencies came from Palm Beach County down to the Florida Keys. Were here supporting us. Plus, all the government, alphabet soup was here. FBI, FAA, all those people were here. That event went off a hitch because of all the planning, preparedness that went into effect by all the agencies, not just emergency management, but all the agencies that were involved. Yeah. And all the cities that were involved.
That was impressive to watch. I saw that, when things don't go wrong like that without a hitch, it's like that shows that you are prepared. So listen, thank you very much. Pete Gomez, Director of Emergency Management for Miami-Dade County. Pete, I'm sure you'll keep us abreast of Dolly if it does get close to us. I appreciate you coming out here. You're a great public servant. You've been doing it for 40-some years. So thank you very much for coming on.
I'll tell you, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'll be happy to do it anytime you want.
Thank you. And so next week on Localized Miami, we have your old boss and mine, kind of, Joe Ariola, former city manager. We have the graphic. You'll show it, I guess. The former city manager, former chairman of the Public Health Trust, and former chairman of Avanti. Anyway. So I'm excited about getting Joe on here again. Anyway, Pete, thank you. Great to see you. And thank you all for coming to watch Localized Miami, and see you next week.